Welcome to Real-Ationship Talk, the podcast where we have real conversations about love, well-being, dating, and relationships. In today's episode, I had a profound conversation about what to do when your partner is depressed with Faust Ruggiero, who is a psychologist and the most interviewed self-help author in the world, with a professional career spanning over 40 years. He has counseled individuals and families in inpatient facilities, prisons, substance abuse counselling centres, and nursing homes, and has provided employee assistance programs to major corporations. His monthly radio show, Fix It With Faust, has almost 1 million listeners. You can find out more about Faust's extensive work in the show notes. During this conversation, Faust shares what depression can look like in the context of marriage. Is it clinical depression, situational depression, or are there different forms we should understand? He explains some of the biggest myths about depression in marriage, including the belief that it will ultimately put a marriage at risk and inevitably lead to divorce. He also explores the common symptoms of depression and the practical steps couples can take to support each other on the journey of recovery. And you'll gain insight into the importance of worthiness and self-care for each individual and the relationship itself as you navigate the situation. And so much more. You are about to get the whole RLT, aka the Real-Ationship Talk, so you're going to want to watch the entire episode. I hope you will find this conversation as enabling as I did. And remember to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell. I'm Teresha Young, your international wellness and relationship coach. Enjoy, take notes, and get ready to apply all key messages you take away today. Hello, Faust. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Teresha, first, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I'm doing very well. It's a first day of fall here in Pennsylvania. So, the temperature are down like 55 degrees. So here it comes.
Quite significant. We call it autumn here in the UK. So we too are approaching that season and the weather seems to be up and down, but we move.
That's right.
We do.
It's not going to change, so we go with it, right?
Exactly. So, Faust, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you because, again, I love approaching new angles on the show because we are going to be exploring depression and marriage and what that looks like within a marriage. So, before we actually move into the juiciness of it all, I would love for you to share with the audience what led you to doing the great work that you do now.
I appreciate you asking. Some of us, Teresha, we look to find our niche, if you will. Mine was just there from birth. I was the kid that listened to everyone. I was the one that wanted to figure things out, be the problem solver. As the kid, I'm gonna save the world, kind of thing. And it just, that then you get realistic and you get your training years and years of college and all those things. And it's been a 40-year run counseling people that's still going, and it's something that I love doing. And the thing is, as long as you, as a therapist, you keep on learning, it stays fresh and you feel locked in. The moment you stop learning, then things change.
Yeah, really great point that you put there because we have to, in my opinion, continue to learn because the world is changing. And if we're not constantly educating ourselves and evolving with the times, then we're not able to support people in the best way that we are able to do so. So, Faust, I would love for you to then explain a little bit more about the link between depression and marriage, because when we talk about depression in the context of marriage, what are we talking about here exactly? Are we talking about clinical depression? Are we talking about situational depression? Or are there different forms of depression that people should know about?
When you talk about marriage and you talk about depression, that's always that little hidden thing in there. Anxiety the same way. People have a tendency in their marriages to focus on the problems. It's
Mm,
financial or we're not clicking or you had this affair or whatever it may be.
yeah.
But they never look at well, why is all this happening? We
Yes.
were just talking about going with the flow and changing.
Yeah.
Marriage is not a stagnant situation. It never stops changing. And the moment the first day we get up and think that we're good and nothing has to be addressed and there's no work to be done, we have a problem. When it comes to depression, we need to know as much about it as we can.
Mm,
Then we can help either apply it in our situation or get help to do so. Mood changes are just such a big thing in a
okay.
marriage that, we never sometimes know we don't know how to take our spouse.
Yes. Yes. And so let's say, for example, somebody notices a mood change, because that's one of the symptoms I would imagine of depression within the marriage. What would be the best first step for somebody who perhaps is noticing it within themselves and also for the partner?
For both, the interesting thing is, when you ask that question and we all ask it, we say, well, gee, if you notice this in your partner, and that's great. And what if both of them have some of this going on? What I always say is the moment one person notices it,
Mm,
get help. Go make a telephone call. I always suggest go to your doctor first just to rule out anything organic.
mm,
And then, you might want to become involved with a counselor or someone who knows more about depression. You
yes.
can learn a little bit from the internet, but be careful because not all that information is what you need. And the other
Mm,
thing about depression, like any other mental health situation, is that there is the condition and then there's how it applies to you specifically.
yes, yes.
And no one has, so there's everyone has can have the same type of depression, but the application is completely different because it's your body, it's your mind, it's been your
Mm.
experiences. So that all has to be factored in.
Oh, I love that for. So I have a question from the audience, but then I also want to bounce back onto something that you said about the experience. So the first question from the audience, when I reached out and said that I was going to be having this great conversation with you, was I often hear that depression can make people seem distant or withdrawn. As a partner, how do I know when to give space and when to step in and offer support?
It's a great question. And that's what we tend to do. We look at this and we say, well, how should I do this today? Or And the key is to have a dialogue going. Ask the question. And don't look at them and say, they seem to need space. Or do you need space today? How
Yes.
are you feeling? What's going on? Talk to me about what's going on. I'm
Mm,
here. I'm present. Whatever you say, I validate because it's you. You're telling me this. And just ask the questions.
mm,
We tend to like to be non-confrontive. And, there it is. And I don't know if I want to say something.
mm.
If you're with your partner and they may have depression, it's not just their problem. It's part of your marriage. And, you want to get right in there and be with them and help them to go through that. You can't do it without a dialogue.
Yes. So, talking about that dialogue, and thank you for explaining that because it encourages people not to make assumptions, as in, oh, that person may need some space or they may want some space. It's actually asking these questions and being curious about it. So, creating that space of vulnerability for people to be able to step in and lean into that experience. So, let's say, for example, because you know, this person spoke about being withdrawn. So, depression can create feelings of like loneliness, perhaps, or maybe some shame or some guilt around feeling that way, or what implications that's having on the marriage. What are some of the ways that couples can build a shared language? Because you've spoken about dialogue. So, what are some of the ways in which a couple can build shared language around what the experiences are?
First, the first and most important part of that is that you really have to want to.
Mm,
And that sounds simplistic, but when I sit down with people and I'm counseling them, we're a society that likes quick fixes.
yes.
Tell me how I'm going to fix this, and I say, you've got to get in there first and say, I'm here for the long haul. I'm here. I really want to do this. I
Yes.
don't want you to just give me something quick and then we're done because we know that's like a rubber band. It goes back, it right back to shape in no time. Well, I am here for the long haul. That's the first decision people make. I want to do this. When they come to counseling, I could see this right away. They want to rush or, well, just tell me what I should do.
Yeah.
It's never that simple.
Mm.
So first is that you really want to be there. And the second is to be present and to be willing to say, if it takes us 10 minutes to talk about this, I'm here for 10. If it takes us an hour, I'm here for the
Mm.
hour. And if you're willing to do that, the dialogue flows then.
Yes.
And one last point is be a listener, not a talker. We all want to tell everybody what we feel. This society has gone mad with that. We all want to tell everyone, we all want to be heard. Who's doing the listening? Great listeners tend to be great communicators.
Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that feels like lots of, juicy and helpful guidance for the person who may be supporting the partner, but equally, it's for the person who may be feeling depressed to be that listener too, because it's going to be impacting the partner in terms of, the implications on their marriage, the implications of how they are feeling. So for somebody who is supporting their partner, what can they do to take care of themselves? Because it's quite a journey, isn't it? Because as you're saying, it's not a quick fix, it's not an overnight thing. Like this could be a journey. So, what can one do for themselves as the partner to take care of themselves?
And I in my own relationship, I will say, okay, you've got this, but I wonder how well I'm doing
Yes.
with this situation. It's very easy to take someone who has depression and you're in a relationship with them and say, there you go again. Oh my God, what is it today? Or you're disconnected or you're negative or whatever. I have to turn it around and say, okay, what am I doing with this? Because there are two of us in a space. It's not just one that's doing some things, it's two. How am I doing this? How am I working with this? Am I doing the right things? If I'm absolutely sure, that's also a red flag. If I say, yeah, I'm sure it's not me, that's a red flag. I What do? You go get a third eye on it. Get someone to look at. It could be a family member that you trust, a friend that's very close to you that you trust. They're not going to give you opinions, they're just going to listen and talk. Get it out of your own head, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing, it's the hamster on the wheel. You're spinning the same things over and over again.
Yes.
Let's get it out of my head and say, well, this is what's going on. What do you think?
Mm. Thank you so much. And what I'm also going to do as part of this conversation in the show notes is drop some useful helplines for people who, if it's not somebody who there are some support lines out there. And I'll drop some links into the show notes just in case you do want to sound it out with an external person, because it's really important to be able to share how you are feeling for your own mental health and well-being too. Now, one of the great tools that you have suggested is to be a great listener as well. How else can somebody really start to tap into what it feels like for the other person who is depressed? Because, as you said, sometimes it can be like, oh, there you go again, up and down, don't know. But how can you actually really start to tap into what that might be like for that person?
Now you're back to listening again. We got to
Yeah,
ask questions.
yeah,
Um, and the other thing is, you really have to believe them. If they're saying, I can't connect today, which is a thing we hear with depression all the time, people will say, I feel lonely, but what we're really talking about is an aloneness, which is a little different. When you're suffering with aloneness, you are disconnected from everyone. That's when you can go out and everyone is laughing, having a great time, and the humor doesn't even come in.
yes,
The other thing about depression is you may know what you're feeling, but your mind it struggles getting it out. So all these things are happening, and people are saying, "Well, I'm trying to get it out, but you don't understand." But
mm,
they're getting part of it out. That's why the questions are so important. You know, get the dialogue started. Ask questions. Clarify those questions. That's
yes,
very important. And if you're the depressed person, you got to know that it's not only the aloneness, it's not only I feel down today. It's the connection to past issues which may have hurt you, and you believe, this is who I am. You're full of shame, you're full of guilt, and all those kinds of
Yes.
things. That disconnect, that we want to get a disconnect from the past, or at least a resolution of the past.
Mm,
That's why counseling with depression is so important.
yes. There will be so many people that will sit back and just say, I'm not depressed. No, could be in denial of it because they may not see themselves as clinically depressed. So, what are some of, obviously, there's some stigma, I think, around the whole depression. So for some people who are sitting back thinking, "Oh, am I? Am I depressed?" We've spoken about some mood changes. Are there any other symptoms that they could be looking at to say, actually, this is worth exploring?
Yes. Motivation is a big one.
Mm,
I should do that. I really don't feel like it today. I started something, I didn't finish it. Uh, Interest is another one, am I interested in all these things? Is there this part of me that says, yeah, I really like that. I can't wait to do that. Is there a passion in my life? Am I liking what I feel? Or do I get up every day and I'm just trying to struggle through the moment? Uh,
mm,
the way the body feels. People that are depressed will often tell me their body hurts. Now, unless you've got a physical problem that's been
yes.
diagnosed or you've had it for many, many years, why would your body hurt? But the most important thing to understand is that clinical depression is a physical matter. People keep looking for all the reasons why they're depressed. Anxiety is the same way. We have the condition, we're depressed. Now our mind is going to go try to attach it to something. Okay,
Mm,
it's because of that. It's physical. That's why you really want to get to your doctor and see are are the chemicals, the neurotransmitters that stimulate our brain is what I'm talking about. Are they
yes.
doing what they're supposed to do? Doesn't mean you have to go on medicine,
Mm,
but
yes.
learn to diagnose it, learn to understand it. Medicine is good for the difficult cases. For some people, herbs and things like that work,
Yes.
but do go find out the connection. It starts in your body and then moves to your mind.
Thank you for that, because I think that could be another one of those myths as well that you touched upon there is that that means I have to go on to medication, for example. And so many people are adverse to that. There's alternatives. What are some of the other biggest myths that you come across, I suppose, when it comes to depression and marriage, if there are any?
The first one is that it's going to stay that way.
Ah,
I'm depressed. It's going to stay that way. The other one is that, again, we just touched on it before. Well, that's your problem, not mine. No, a marriage should never work that way.
yes.
If you and I are married and you say, I've got this depression, no, we have that. You're maybe the one experiencing all of the physical things and all, but I'm right there with you. I'm not going to push away. I'm not going to say I'm going to grab you. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to say, I got you. And this is our problem and we're going to do it. Talk about giving a depressed person something they can hold on to. They can hold on to you.
Yes. Feels like hope. No, especially when you say that, it's like giving that person the willingness and the hope that and I love that word, we can move through that together. And I think that neatly ties into another audience question that I had, and I believe that you might have answered it actually. It says, can depression really put a marriage at risk, or is that more about the couples and how they handle it together? I think that's what you have been suggesting here during this conversation.
That is what I'm suggesting. And that's not to lighten what depression is. It can be a debilitating a condition and it can affect the marriage. However, it's like anything else in our lives. Something happens and then it's how we decide we're going to deal with it. And if we go negative or we want to run away or well then that's what we're going to get. On the other hand, if we say, I'm here. And
Mm,
understand if you're the partner or the spouse and that person you're involved with has depression and you think and you're saying when is this going to stop?
yes,
You've defeated yourself.
yes,
The
yes.
moment you say that, when you get up, it's us. How you doing today? Let's look at what we need to do and we go forward. And sometimes it's a struggle. In the real acute uh, depressive disorders, where a person wants to lay down on the sofa and that's the end of the story, then we know that medicine is going to need to be involved, at least for a short
Mm.
time. But
Yeah.
I've been doing counseling for a long time, and 30 years ago, when people came into the office with depression, not many of them were on medication, 10,
Mm.
15%, and we got them through all of this.
Yes.
Now, one of the problems is that people go look for a quick fix. They get on the
Mm.
medications, and those medications, they can be good or they can be poison for you. Uh,
Yes.
you know, so, they can make it a little better or they can rock your world. So before you get there, medicine, in other words, medicine is your last resort.
Yes.
Get your go get all the blood work done. Find, find out where you are. It could be depression. It could be a thyroid that's
Yes.
not working well. It could be hormonal issues. With women in depression, a lot of the work I'm doing now is based on the hormones and how they change. I'm not just talking menstrual cycles. I'm talking fluctuations that are constant
Yes.
and learning how each woman deals with hormone and inflammation that comes with all of that. Well, when a woman goes through that whole monthly cycle, there are periods of inflammation and hormonal imbalance, and they can mimic depression very well, or at the
Mm.
very least, getting the hormones in order for men and women. It's not just females that have
Yes.
uh, hormonal issues. Men have hormones too,
Yes.
so we want to know that that's all in order. We want to
Mm.
know that, physically the body's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
So start there.
Yeah. That's a wonderful starting point because I know that when we was having our intro call before this, we spoke about how it's really important just to give people clear steps, to give them the opportunity to decide, in terms of what's going to be their next best step. And everything that you have shared there is so important for people to explore before perhaps going to the final thing, which could be medication, so to speak. But it gives people the opportunity to explore and say there could be some other things at play here. And I think it's so important for people to know that. Um, Another question for us that when we were having our call before this, that we spoke about how to encourage people. There was a question I believe that you would like people to ask themselves, which is, am I not important enough for myself? Oof. So please share with us what makes that such a powerful question for those facing depression in a marriage, and also maybe for those who are supporting somebody who is depressed.
Importance and it's a wonderful question, Teresha. Importance in a marriage occurs on both ends.
Mm,
If I have the depression, I have to say I'm important enough to put the effort in to get over this.
so
And when we talk about self-worth, we don't only talk about depression, we talk about what's occurred in our lives.
mm,
Because now I got depressed, but I remember when so and so did that to me, my father, my mother, that previous relationship, whatever it may be, and I'm thinking that I'm not worthy of anything. Yes, you are. Why would you not be? Because if some
yes.
life things came at you. So
Mm,
that's the first thing. So you're first, and so that when you begin that first step, you're saying, okay, I should have this. There's no reason why I shouldn't. The other partner has to believe the same thing and has to believe that the person who may be struggling is worth it.
mm,
It's very easy to say, you're holding us back, and I'd like to do this, but there you are again with that stuff. What
yes.
that you don't have to tell a person they're not worthy. You can
Mm,
look at them and give that here we go again look, and they say, here you just told me I'm gonna be the one that messes everything up.
mm,
We all have to operate from the position that we are worthy and that our partner is worthy and that our relationship is worthy of all the beauty that can come from it. We just have to be willing to do, I hate to even say the work because it shouldn't be drudgery. You should make that enjoyable work. Okay, you've got the pressure. Let's go get it. Let's, there's strength in numbers and I'm here.
And that's a really powerful question. And this is why you do the great work that you do, because there'll be so much things coming up for people that will question that worthiness. And you've alluded to things that could be cropping up from childhood and to make you question, am I worthy? Or I'm not worthy, and all of that self-talk that we may give to each other. And I know that you've done some great work in terms of your books and how you often say that everything we need is inside of us, not outside. What does that look like in practice for somebody who might be feeling stuck right now?
Absolutely. Understand, be able to say to yourself, okay, everything I need's in me. However, I got all this stuff on top of it. I've got to unpack all that. That's where I get help. And it's okay, fine. I know it's there. I've had periods in my life where I saw some of it. And now I just need to learn how to move it around, shuffle things, take what's unnecessary and move it out, take the pain and be able to address that and reconcile old issues and move forward. When I can do all of that, I clear my path to move forward. And that's all we're talking about here. Let's get the junk out of the marriage.
Yeah. So that probably lends quite neatly into Murphy's Law, though. And the whole premise that if something can go wrong, it's going to go wrong. How does buying into that belief affect a couple's relationship when depression is present?
The first thing you look at, it's a wonderful question. The first thing you look at is how I started thinking that way. And you know what it is? I've been through all these negative situations in my life, and I've desperately tried to change them. But every time I did, it was a failure.
Mm,
I couldn't do it. So now my mind says, regardless of what I do, it's
yes.
probably not going to work.
Mm,
If it's going to go wrong, it's going to happen to me. And
yes.
this has been the way it's always been because I've got evidence that, look, I tried
Yes.
everything I could and it's always a failure. You know what? You tried everything you could, but you probably tried to do it alone.
Mm,
Go get help. When you talk about being worthy, first step is to say, okay, I'm worthy of the help. Let me go
mhm.
get the help. And if we need help at home, because my spouse can't put it all in, let's go. Will you please come with me? Let's go talk to someone. It's better than dealing with this every day. Let's see what we need to do. We're worthy of that.
I see. Talking about getting help, and that's such a great consideration, is that you've probably done it alone and you haven't had help. So you haven't had the support. So it has felt like you have quote unquote failed in your previous endeavors. And as a coach myself, when we start building up the evidence in terms of what hasn't worked so well, it's really important to focus on the things that have gone, to build up the new evidence to support why when things have gone right, for example. And that's something that I do definitely encourage my clients to do. In your experience now, because when you talk about asking for help, and I think there is a tendency for men to be more resistant to
Mhm.
asking for help, have you found that in the work that you're doing in your practice that it's more, where does it end? Like what side is it swinging when it comes to you?
Yeah, men are much more apt to come to counseling now, but men have a tendency to wait until there's a bit of a crisis. Oh my God, the marriage may be going,
Ah, yeah.
or I'm thinking about support payments, or I'm thinking about all the things I may lose. Then men come in, and that's the wrong reason to come in. Um, uh, the swing now is much better than it used to be. People are coming in. They just need to do this a little bit quicker. There is still a stigma that says, if I'm depressed, then there's something wrong with me and I don't want anyone else to know this. And I always tell people, if you had some other disease, you had cancer, you had something, would you go to the doctor? Well, of
Ah,
course I would.
yeah.
Well, we're talking about depression as a physical problem.
Mm,
What are you, because your mind is interpreting it as, I have a mental defect or something wrong with me. Now you don't want to go. Treat this like any other physical problem. Go get help for it. Go to experts who say, yeah, I know how to deal with depression. I know how to help marriages through that. Go get and treat it like that. Don't treat this like a mental disorder that puts you in some position to be unworthy and there's something wrong with your brain and that's all it is and I'll never get over it. Forget that. It's physical. Go start there like you would any other condition.
Yes. Would you say that some of the resistance around that, so we've got that notion that it's not a physical aspect, it's pure mental, and I don't want to broach that because of all of the stigma and the shame that may come from that. Would you also say that there was a fear that, I know we spoke about this earlier, that it's just a fear that's going to lead to divorce, really, and either both people just don't want to face that.
That's the scary part. And unfortunately, in some cases, what happens with depression is that, gee, one of us is depressed and because of that, you have depression, I'm never happy. And then I went to work and so was there and I started talking to that person and we laughed and oh my God, I'm laughing again. And then you come home and the person is
Mm,
that's why I say before you look outside of your marriage and look for someone who's going to make you laugh and feel good and understand you and all those things, that seem, where all the tinsel is in the beginning of something. Before you do that, go get help and be able to do that in your own marriage, and you will be able to. You just have to put some time in. To me, it's
okay.
easier to do that than to break the whole marriage up. If they're children, let them go back and forth, lose half of your finances. You're subject to courts and whoever else is involved telling you how you're going to live your life. Before you get to that point, just because you think you want to laugh with somebody, fix what you have. You married that person for a reason.
Mm.
Obviously, you love them. Go love them again.
And we are talking about, something that can be quite reactive. What are some of the preventative measures that couples can put in place to maybe not even get to the stage where people could be depressed in a relationship or marriage? What can we be doing on a regular basis as a couple in order to avoid as much or mitigate this happening?
You're talking, I think, about self-care and how we take care of our bodies and our minds. Um, remember, we're talking about a physical condition. So what we put into our bodies is huge. How we sleep, sleep and depression go hand in hand. If we're the people that say, well, I can't get to sleep, my head is spinning and now it's 2 o'clock and then you have 5 hours of sleep, your body's already in a depressive situation. Watch what you're putting in it. Substances, uh, caffeine. The world is living on marijuana these days, thinking that it's a cure. It's nothing more than a way to get high. It does in the long run. What we're finding with marijuana is that the effects are absolutely horrible. And so, what it does to the brain over time. Try to get away from those things. If you're going to put substances in your body, you really, really want to make sure you've taken care of your body first. Otherwise, you're working against yourself. Get the right sleep, put the right diet in, exercise if you can. You know, uh, and that doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be one of those fitness gurus. That might mean your 20-minute walk around the block. It may be your home on a stationary bike, whatever it may be. Get your heart rate up for 20 or 30 minutes. You do those things, you're already going to start to feel better because you're getting the body where it needs to be. Then you're going to get your mind in order, and that's where a counselor comes in and stick to that plan. You're trying to get your life balanced, and where physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual entities, regardless of how much of that you want to believe. Those are the facts. And the
Mm,
more you nurture those four components, the better you are. You don't have to pray if you don't want to, but meditate. Do something to connect deeper inside you. Have the exercise, take care of your body, get someone to talk to, and deal with your emotions and your intellect. If you're, well, in other words, what I'm saying is attack the whole person. Go get all of it. Don't be one dimensional in this. I'm going to take medicine and maybe I'll go to a counselor every so often or a coach. That's probably not going to work. Attack the whole person. And if both people are doing that, everything changes.
I love that. It all starts with us, isn't it? The relationship that we have with ourselves will impact on the relationship that we have with other people. So that self-care, looking after your mental health and well-being on a consistent, regular basis is absolutely key in order for you to be able to support yourself and to be able to support your partner too in that dynamic. What about check-ins? Relationship check-ins, for example, because as we said, most of these people, or some of these people, who knows, many of these people could be getting to crisis points. But however, if we're having more regular couple check-ins, weekly check-ins, daily check-ins, whatever that is, how's things going? That surely is a way to kind of like mitigate some of this happening too.
It
Couple
is.
practices.
And we're back to that statement I made earlier. Marriage is dynamic, it continues to change. What you learned in marriage counseling 2 years ago, 3 years ago, most of it will apply, but some of it will change because the conditions of your life change. There's also that tendency to fall back a little and say, good, I can breathe now. We can relax. Well, yeah, but we don't want the work to stop. We don't want the all the good tools that you learn to be put in the cupboard and say, well, we'll pull those out when we need them. They're
Mm,
tools because we need them every day. Keep
yes.
using them. So, follow ups, absolutely. Check in. Hey, are we doing the right thing? That may be one session. It could be in the office, it could be online.
Yeah.
We're both here. Let's see that we're doing the right things. Let's get an idea.
Yeah.
Put your eyes on our situation. Let's see. Sure,
Mm,
absolutely.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant guidance. And everything that we share today, I just think is really going to help people to understand not to fear the symptoms of depression in a marriage, because it doesn't mean it's the end of the marriage whatsoever, or it's going to lead to divorce, whatever fears. It's just if you can do this journey together and hold that space for each other, not put a time frame on how quickly it's going to happen, but just to simply be there for each other, but also be there for yourself. As you said, attack the whole person. So make sure that you are looking after yourself too, which is so important. Is there anything else in terms of depression and marriage that we've not spoken about today that you would like to cover as well, Faust?
When you talk about depression in a marriage, uh, again, you're talking about, as we said, something physical. Even if this is such a powerful statement, even if you don't think you have anything wrong, look anyway.
Oh.
I counsel people for a living. And I remember 30 years ago, a woman comes in and I've been working with her, and beautiful soul, beautiful person, and says, it must be nice to not have any of these things and be able to counsel people. I said, do you really believe that somehow the Lord put me down here and said, by the way, you're perfect and go get everybody else? And then would you really want to come to me if I never experienced any of this stuff? We all have this. Even those of us who are, quote, experts in the field, we have to do all these things.
Yes.
So even if you think things are great, move forward with the possibility that there may be something that I need to address. At the very least, that keeps your mind open, it keeps you learning, and it keeps you committed to growth. And that's what you want. So never get to the point that you think you got it. Always think that there's more to get.
Yes. That element of curiosity. And that is actually a really empowering thing to be able to do as well, because it helps us to be prepared. I say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So stay ready for it by having that curiosity. So absolutely love that share. Absolutely loved it. First, as part of my conversation as well, because we're talking about here, we're talking about marriage, we're talking about depression, and ultimately we're talking about love, and the value of love in a relationship. And I always like to ask my guests a question, which is, what's your personal definition of love, Faust? In a romantic term, what does that mean to you?
For me, when I talk about love, it's an absolute, unconditional, permanent connection. And it means that whatever my partner is going through, it not only does it affect me, I want it to. I want to experience, I want to connect with everything she is feeling. And if you're willing to do that, I think love comes from a spiritual place. I don't think it's the hallmark thing. I don't think love is an emotion. Love, if you really love someone, it's spiritual. The only way it gets to be can be unconditional is spiritual love. Other loves are not uh, unconditional. When you get soul to soul, so to speak, now
Yes.
you're talking about love. So I like to go as deep as possible, and I'm using the same philosophy I just mentioned. I think I got it really well. Let's do better.
Yes.
Let's learn more. Make it the most important thing in my life, and spin
Mm.
everything around that.
Oh, what a wonderful personal definition. And I know that will connect with people on so many levels because it just goes really to the depth of that connection. And I really love what you said there in terms of, I want to experience it too. It's like hands up, me too. It's like, I want to experience what you experience because that helps me to connect with you and to have that understanding and that vulnerability. And it's all about the safety, isn't it? When it comes to a relationship,
Mhm.
safety on all levels, whatever that means. And even that spiritual safety can be so important in a relationship.
And it starts, Teresha, it starts in the morning or the first moment that you see your other person. If
Mm,
you can say, keep it conscious and say, I'm with you, I love you, and I can't wait to experience everything you're going to bring to me today. And then stay with that thought all day. You got it.
yes. What a lovely. Now, I know that my listeners are note takers as well. So please go back and listen to this and write that down if you haven't already written that down. And that could be one of the most important questions you ask yourself for that day or affirmations that you say that day as well. So absolutely wonderful. Well, as part of our closing tradition here on the show, and I really want to thank you for everything that you have shared here today. It's been wonderful. And I know it's just going to guide people who may be experiencing this at this time. And as part of the closing tradition, I do like to ask my guests to leave one key takeaway to help the audience along their journey of love, well-being, and relationships. And what would you like to share?
You know, I'll go a little more personal on that. If you love yourself, then you love yourself with all the flaws. And if you love those and are willing to work to do whatever you need to do to make those better, you will love your spouse or your significant other in the same way. Love yourself and love them more if you can. Be willing to put them over you and
Yes.
bring positive energy into everything you do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that share. Oh, so nourishing, False. I really, really love that. Now, where can the listeners find you? Where are you hanging out? Should they want to connect with you? Please do let us know.
Best place to get me would be my website. It's my name, faustruggiero.com. Everything about me is there. There are excerpts from the books if people are interested in saying, well, I'm hearing these things, but let me look and see what he's doing. Media interviews are all there. And there's a link if anyone wants to contact me. I do get back to people.
That's great to know. Force gets back to people, which is good. Thank you. And I am going to drop all of your links into the show notes, which will include all of the information regarding your books, because you are also an author as well, which is fantastic. Would you like to just share the name of your books as well so the audience can hear that?
The whole series is called the Fix Yourself Empowerment Series, and there are 6 books. Depression is one of those. Anxiety is in there. Anger is in there. Substance abuse, and the new one is internal language, how we talk to ourselves. So anyone is interested, again, there you can find all the links on the website.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been fantastic. And the audience are absolutely going to love it. And thank you for answering the audience questions too. I know that whoever dropped that in will be most appreciative of that. So thank you once again.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody who has listened to this wonderful conversation, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention, and for your energy. And until the next episode, take great care of yourself and others too.